Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. We'll get started at 2 o'clock. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tin Lee, and I manage the Air District's Clean Cars for All program. I'll go over some housekeeping items before we get into today's agenda. Next slide, please. This webinar is being recorded and will be posted to the Clean Cars for All website later this week. Copies of all the presentations are currently available on the website. During the webinar, you may type in questions using the Zoom Q&A function. After each presentation, we'll have about 10 minutes for questions. Due to high demand and participant registrations, we may not be able to respond to all questions during the meeting, but we will collect all the questions and post follow-up information and responses after the meeting. Future program updates and information will be posted to the Air District's Clean Cars for All program as it's finalized. And I also want to note that the Air District staff are available to meet with stakeholders individually to answer questions, discuss program details, and receive feedback. Please send us an email if you're interested in chatting. Next slide, please. During the webinar today, we will be providing updates for our Clean Cars for All program. We've also invited staff that help administer other EV incentive programs across the Bay Area that may be combined to help maximize incentives. We'll have Brandon Jasmine from PG&E talk about their pre-owned electric vehicle rebate program, which is available to PG&E customers across the Bay Area. Then we'll hear about MCE's EV Instant Rebate Program from Melanie Biesecker. And finally, Carlos Moreno will discuss Peninsula Clean Energy's used EV rebate program. Now, keep in mind that MCE's program and Peninsula Clean Energy's programs are only available to their customers in certain cities or counties. So not everyone is going to qualify for those programs. At the end of the webinar, you will be asked to complete a short survey to provide feedback to the Clean Cars for All team. The survey will also be emailed to you. And I will hand it off now to my colleague, Deanna Yu, who will present an update on the Clean Cars for All program.
Great. Thanks, Dean. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deanna Yee, and I'm a grant specialist here at the Air District. I'll be walking us through the upcoming program changes for the Clean Cars for All program today. Next slide, please. For our agenda, I'll begin with some background information on the Air District, provide an overview of the Clean Cars for All program and general eligibility requirements, review program changes and the application process, and end with next steps as we prepare to relaunch the program with these new requirements. Next slide, please. I'll start with an introduction to the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, or Air District for short. The Air District was established in 1955 as the first air pollution control agency in the country. Our mission is to create a healthy breathing environment for all 7 million residents in the 9 Bay Area counties while protecting and improving public health, air quality, and the global climate. We accomplish this by regulating stationary sources of pollution, such as oil refineries, and monitoring air quality. We also have a variety of incentive programs where organizations and residents can receive funding to help promote clean air in their communities. Next slide, please. The Bay Area and state of California both have ambitious electric vehicle, or EV, adoption goals to help reduce emissions and promote clean air. The Bay Area currently has over 430,000 registered EVs and a goal of 1.5 million EVs by 2030. Meanwhile, the state of California currently has about 1.1 million registered EVs with a goal of 5 million by 2050. New car sales in the state are also required to be zero emission by 2035, which means only battery electric and hydrogen fuel cell vehicles can be sold. These goals translate into grant programs like Clean Cars for All. As you can see in the chart on the right, the majority of greenhouse gas emissions in the Bay Area are from the transportation sector, almost 41% from sources like passenger cars. And we want to transition from gas to electric cars to help reduce transportation-related emissions. Clean Cars aims to provide equitable access to EVs by providing funding and support to lower income consumers. Next slide, please. Clean Cars for All launched in March 2019 and has awarded over $33 million to almost 4,000 grantees to date. The program focuses on serving residents living in communities that experience higher levels of air pollution, which we call disadvantaged communities. We focus on educating grantees about different vehicle technology types, have consumer protections in place when grantees are purchasing the replacement vehicles, and we coordinate with other programs to maximize incentives and make vehicles as affordable as possible. Next slide, please. So what does the Clean Cars for All program offer? Income qualified residents who retire their old gas cars can purchase or lease a new or used cleaner vehicle, such as a hybrid, plug-in hybrid, battery electric, or fuel cell electric vehicle, or they can receive a prepaid card for electric bikes or public transit. Grantees who purchase a plug-in electric vehicle are also eligible to receive an EV charger rebate for a home charger installation or portable charger. Next slide, please. These are the 4 main criteria for applicants to be eligible for the program. Applicants need to be applying to the program for the first time, live in an eligible zip code, have an older gas vehicle to retire, and they must have a qualifying household income based on the percentage of the federal poverty level, which is a calculation based on household size and income. We'll go into more detail for the last 3 requirements on this slide and highlight program changes as well. Next slide, please. The program will be relaunching in early 2024 with major changes stemming from revised guidelines under our new funding contract with the California Air Resources Board, which is at the state level. The first change will affect zip code eligibility. Applicants must currently reside in one of the 76 disadvantaged zip codes. Under the new program, we'll be expanding to all 304 Bay Area zip codes by early 2024. We may do a phased relaunch where we initially open to disadvantaged zip codes first and then expand to all Bay Area zip codes shortly after. The second change will impact income requirements. We'll be focusing on the lowest income residents by reducing the federal poverty level, or FPL, percentage from 400% down to 300%. The third change is the retired vehicle model year cap will increase from model year 2005 to 2007 or older. And lastly, the incentive amounts will increase. Funding for the current program ranges from $5,000 to $9,500, and under the new program, it will increase to a range between $7,000 and $12,000. Next slide, please. This table compares our current incentive amounts with the new program's incentive amounts for each clean transportation option. Award amounts vary depending on the clean transportation option selected and if an applicant resides in a disadvantaged community census tract. One of the highlights under the new program changes is grantees who live in a disadvantaged community census tract who purchase a plug-in electric or fuel cell electric vehicle will receive an additional $2,000. Next slide, please. A lot of you will have questions about if you live in a disadvantaged community census tract and qualify for the higher grant amounts if you purchase a plug-in electric or a fuel cell electric vehicle. I really want to emphasize that staff will verify your eligibility for you during the application review. But if you'd like to check yourself, you can visit this online map tool provided by the California Air Resources Board, and there's a hyperlink on the screen that you'll be able to access from our website. You'll start by entering your address in the search bar. In this example, I've entered 747 Howard Street, which is the address for the Moscone Center in San Francisco. And you'll click the yellow dot where your address is located on the map, and a box will pop up. You'll check if the term disadvantaged community CES4 appears in that box, and you may need to click the right arrow within that box if you don't see it on the first page. If you do see that term, disadvantaged community CES4, double check that yes appears to the right of it, and that means you qualify. If you don't see the disadvantaged community category appear at all, then you do not qualify for the increased grant. And again, if you have questions about that, case managers are happy to answer that for you. So next slide, please. Now that we've reviewed the general program requirements, I want to go into more detail with what kind of vehicle you need to retire in order to be eligible for our program. So we talked about how we're increasing the retired vehicle model year from 2005 to 2007. Your vehicle also needs to be registered under your name, driven in California for the past 2 years, and is a light-duty vehicle that weighs less than 10,000 pounds. Next slide, please. With income eligibility changing to 300% or less of the federal poverty level, these numbers in the chart are now the corresponding annual household income caps for each household size. Everyone below these income caps will now qualify for the base grant amounts for each vehicle technology category or mobility option. And if you live in a disadvantaged community census tract, you will receive an additional $2,000 if you select a plug-in electric or fuel cell electric vehicle. Next slide, please. This slide provides an overview of what the application process looks like. After you visit our program website, visit our apply page that will take you to our grantee portal in Flux, where you can apply and manage your application. You'll fill out and submit the online application, and if you meet the initial eligibility requirements, you'll move on to a vehicle pre-inspection at one of our authorized dismantlers to verify your vehicle qualifies. From there, you'll sign the terms and conditions, go through a final application review, and if approved, you'll receive an award letter with details about your grant amount and what you can purchase. If you opted for a vehicle, you can buy or lease a new or used replacement vehicle at over 80 authorized dealerships that are contracted with our program. And if you opted for the mobility option, you'll be sent a prepaid card in the mail that you can use on public transit or e-bikes and bike accessories. After purchasing a vehicle or receiving your prepaid card, you'll proceed with retiring your old vehicle at an authorized dismantler. Those who purchased a plug-in hybrid or battery electric vehicle would also then be eligible for the EV charger rebate at that point. And if you need assistance at any time before or after applying, you can contact the case manager with any questions. Next slide, please. We anticipate relaunching by the end of Q1 in 2024. There is no set launch date yet. The program remains open until funding is exhausted, and we have about $28 million for this cycle, which should fund up to 2,300 grants. If you are a current grantee with an award letter who has not purchased a vehicle yet, and you think you qualify under the new program requirements, you will not automatically receive the higher grant amount. You will need to reapply after we relaunch and will be subject to current program requirements at the time of your application submission. More details will be provided about this in the coming months. Next slide, please. So this concludes my presentation. Thank you all for your time today. If you're interested in learning more about Clean Cars for All and details on how to apply, you can visit our website at baaqmd.gov/cleancarsforall, or you can contact one of our friendly case managers by email or phone. And if you're a community organization or dealership, and you have some questions about how to process payments or how to do some outreach with us, you can contact Air District staff directly. And Tim, I'll hand it back off to you.
Cool, thanks, Deanna. So I think we have about 22 questions. Everyone, if you have questions, continue to please enter them in. I will start reading questions, and Deanna and myself will help answer the questions. So the first question, Deanna, when will we be able to apply with a 2007 car to trade in?
So all of these updated requirements, eligibility requirements that I just went over, that's going to be a part of the 2024 relaunch. So we're going to do that by the end of Q1 in 2024. And right now we don't have an exact launch date. So when we do launch or have a launch date, we'll email our email distribution list on our website. There's a link that you can sign up on the homepage of our Clean Cars for All program website. So we really encourage you to sign up on that list if you haven't already, just to follow along with our relaunch details.
Great. The next question is Clean Cars for All concurrent with the California EV rebate? If yes, what's the status of the California rebate? I remember funds were exhausted, and there's a new plan for new programs. So I think this is referring to CVRP. So if there's any status updates on the Clean Vehicle Rebate project.
Yeah, so Clean Vehicle Rebate Project is, unfortunately, they are not going to receive any future funding from the state. So right now, they're only processing applications that have already been submitted and are on a wait list at this point. So they will not be relaunching their program, and it's not going to be available in the future to stack with Clean Cars for All, although it was in the past.
So there's also some other questions that are coming in that are kind of alluding to the statewide financing assistance program that's going to be opening up. So I can talk a little bit about that. So the California Air Resources Board recently contracted with an organization called Community Housing Development Corporation to administer a statewide Clean Cars for All program and then also a financing assistance program. For that program, you don't have to turn in a vehicle. And I think you can get up to $7,000, $7,500. But the program is not going to be stackable with Clean Cars for All, so it's going to be a standalone program. All right. The next question. When the Clean Cars for All program expands in March, will all zip codes be open for applying?
Yeah, so I mentioned we're planning on relaunching by the end of Q1, which is the end of by the end of March in 2024. So we will be expanding to all 304 Bay Area zip codes, and that's all the zip codes that are within our air district's jurisdiction. So we'll be all Bay Area zip codes. Yes.
Great. And then this next question is a little bit interesting. I'll read it and I actually may just answer this if it's okay. So the question is, if the vehicle is still running, but registration is expired, how does law enforcement treat it? And what happens if the application is still under review? So the vehicle that is being scrapped doesn't need to be currently registered unless it has a salvage title. Vehicles that are not registered can be registered as planned non-operational, and or we call it P&O vehicles. If you have a planned non-operational vehicle, you can get a day permit to drive the vehicle to a dismantler. So check with the DMV, reach out to us if you have any specific questions about that. Okay. I think this is already answered this one. Okay, next question. What happens if my income is barely above the income eligibility?
So for our program, it is strict with the income requirements. We do a calculation based on your household income and size, and then it spits out a number, which is the percentage at the federal poverty level. So it has to be exactly 300% or less. If you're over that threshold, you will unfortunately not qualify. However, your income could change year to year. So we do encourage you to check back next year to see perhaps if you qualify in the future.
Okay. The next question, does the amount depend on the type of vehicle that is turned in? So does your grant amount depend on the vehicle that you turn in?
No. It has nothing to do with the vehicle, the gas vehicle that you plan on retiring. It's only dependent on the vehicle technology type that you purchase or lease, so the replacement vehicle. So if you purchased a hybrid, for example, you'd be eligible for $7,000. And if you selected a battery electric vehicle instead, you'd be eligible for $10,000 as the base grant amount.
Okay, this next question, it says, we have customers waiting for the new program. Is it possible to provide dates when the new rules go into effect?
So as I mentioned before, we don't have an exact launch date right now. We just have a general idea that we plan to launch by the end of Q1 or by the end of March 2024. So we encourage you to follow along, sign up for our email distribution list to see when that is.
Yeah, and just for everyone who's wondering, we are making significant updates to our grant management system. So we plan on before we transition to the new program, we'll probably close the existing program. We're going to try to limit how long the program is closed, possibly 2 weeks or less. And then, at that point, I think, like in early January, we should have a better sense of like when we're going to roll out the program. So we'll try to provide some updates early next year so everyone can get a sense of when the program's going to open. All right, the next question. The income caps for the new 2024 eligibility criteria seem to use the 2022 federal poverty guidelines, but the current criteria use the 2023 guidelines. When the updates to the program take effect, will they still be using the 2022 federal poverty guidelines?
So we can double check those guidelines, but they should be 2023 guidelines. Just some background information. We utilize the federal poverty guidelines from the current year, and they go into effect by July 1st of that year. So, for example, right now we're in calendar year 2023. The federal poverty guidelines are usually released in January or February of the calendar year, and then we implement them by June or July of 2023. So right now we're using 2023 guidelines, and we will be using those guidelines through the end of June 2024. And then we'll update it by July 1st.
Okay, this next question, after CVRP closure, the announcement states that Clean Cars for All will be revamped to also offer incentives of up to $7,500 to participants who are not retiring their used cars and just buying a new one. Can you share some more light on to this? So I think this question is so for Clean Cars for All, you have to scrap a vehicle. The other program, the financing assistance program, that program is under development and will be launching sometime next year. If you have specific questions about that, we can put you in touch with Community Housing Development Corporation so you can sign up for updates and learn when that program opens. We'll try to put some of that information too on our website after this webinar. So seems to be a lot of questions about that. Okay. The next question, in 2024, would a household just submit their 2023 income?
So for income, we require your most recent income that you've filed. So if you were applying in March 2024 and you have filed your taxes for 2023, then you're going to submit your most recent tax return, which is for calendar year 2023. If in March you have not filed taxes for 2023 yet, and your most recent filing is 2022, then you would submit 2022. So it's always your most recent filing.
Okay, the next question, is this a refund or is the price lowered at the time of purchase, similar to the federal EV rebate?
Our grant is a point of purchase price reduction. So it is provided at the point of sale when you purchase the vehicle. And we do that specifically to reduce the barriers of, the cost when you're buying the vehicle initially. So it's not a reimbursement later. You receive it when you purchase the car with the dealership.
The next question, is there a list of the 80 plus authorized dealerships?
Yes. If you visit our website, we have a participating dealerships page in I believe the resources tab of our website, and all of the dealerships there are there with their contact information.
Okay, I think, so we have about 48 more questions. We'll try to answer some of these questions as we go, but I think just to keep things going, I think we need to move forward and go to our next presentation. If there's time at the end of the webinar, we can definitely circle back and answer more questions. I would like to introduce, if Colin, if you can advance the slide to the next one. I'd like to introduce Brandon Jasmine, who's the residential EV program supervisor at the Pacific Gas and Electric at PG&E. So he's going to go over primarily focusing on the used EV program, but there's also some information about some of his other programs. Take it away, Brandon.
Great, Tim. Can you guys hear me? Thumbs up. Okay, perfect. Great. Thanks for that introduction, Tim. My name is Brandon Jasmine. I'm part of PG&E's Clean Energy Transportation Group, which does everything EV related. Within that group, I'm the supervisor of our residential focused EV programs. So what you see up on the screen is our 5 offerings for EV related programs for our residential customers. Before I go into the details of the pre-owned EV rebate program, which is program number 1, I just thought I'd give an overview of our low carbon fuel standards, since that represents a lot of the funding that we have for our offerings. So many of you may already be familiar with LCFS, but if you're not, it is our CARB regulation to reduce emissions from transportation fuels via carbon market. So what does that mean for PG&E? Well, PG&E generates or earns credits from providing low carbon fuels and uses the non-ratepayer revenue to fund customer programs, which is programs 1 through 4. These 4 programs, which you see below, were approved in December of 2021. And that 5th program resides outside of the low carbon fuel standard funding, so it's ratepayer funded. And programs 1, 2, and 3, and 5 all have equity components, versus the 4th program is a resiliency program. So starting with program number 1, I mentioned this before, but it's our pre-owned EV rebate program, which provides a post-purchase rebate for pre-owned EVs. So that's battery electric vehicles and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles. The base rebate is a $1,000 rebate. For those that are income qualified, they can receive up to a $4,000 income qualified rebate. And the program launched in February of 2023, so very excited about that. The next program is our multifamily housing small business EV charger program, which we launched in the middle of the summer. It provides it installs low power charging, so level 1 and level 2 at multifamily and small businesses with existing panel capacity, and provides education for customers pre and post installation of those chargers. The 3rd program is our residential charging solutions pilot program, which we just launched in November, so very excited about that. It provides a $700 post-purchase rebate on eligible EV charging equipment for income qualified customers. And then the 4th program is our resilient charging pilot, which we commonly refer to as EV Pulse. So this allows for customers to have software communication and actively manage charging for their EVs prior to a power safety power shutoff event, to ensure that they have ample battery capacity on their EVs ahead of those PSPS events. And that program launched in August of 2022, and we're now at the tail end of that program, so it will be ending at the end of this month and no longer accepting applicants. And then the 5th program is our Empower EV program, which provides rebates to income qualified customers for home chargers and panel upgrades, plus tailored EV rates and education. And we launched that over the summer. So I'm going to keep it short, but on the next slide, I wanted to call out that each program has individual websites that provide details on the program participant requirements. A lot of the questions that folks have in the chat will actually be answered at those websites. So if you want to click on them, I definitely encourage you to do so. And if there are any other follow-up questions, put them in the chat. And then if you can leave your name and contact information if you can, we'll try to get back to you with any specific questions. I may not have the answers, since my team of program managers are the ones that work more directly with the program and the implementer. But if there is anything that I can help answer, I will try to do my best.
Cool, thanks, Brandon. Colin, if you can, let's move it back the one slide. Okay, so I'll start with some questions. I think you and I can both answer some of these questions. So the first question that we have is, are programs 1, 2, 3 and 5 stackable with Clean Cars for All, i.e. Clean Cars for All gives a $2,000 credit for home chargers. And yeah, I think they're just trying to, the question is like, what can be combined and what cannot be combined?
Yeah, I'd have to look at the details for the specific situation. I know that there is stacking of cross programs, but depending on how it applies for Clean Cars for All, I'd have to get back to them on that.
Yeah, so we've also had some recent grantees that got I think a free charger from either it must be Empower EV. So they've gotten a free charger from Empower EV, and then they're still able to use that charger and get it installed through our program. So we still give the $2,000 towards the installation of that charger that you got from PG&E. So the next question is the pre-owned EV rebate stackable with Clean Cars for All?
So I think we just answered.
So the vehicle rebate itself, I mean, your PG&E's program is a true rebate, right? It's not on the hood. So participants who apply and buy a vehicle through Clean Cars for All, you should be able to still submit a rebate request through PG&E's used rebate. There's no limitations on the air district side, so I don't know if there's I don't think there's any limitations on the PG&E side.
Yeah, and I can take that question back to the team, but as far as I know, I don't think there are.
Okay, great. And then is there what's the PG&E income threshold?
Yeah, so depending on the program, this is why I mentioned before, but it's definitely valuable to go check out the website. Each program has different income qualification requirements. I don't have the ability to outline all of them here because it also depends on your zip code and where you live. So I encourage you to check out the websites if you can.
Okay. All right, let's clear some of these. The next question, do you have to be a PG&E customer to take advantage of some or all of these programs?
So they are focused for PG&E customers. So I think that some of them do require you to have a PG&E account number in order to actually apply for the program. So yes.
Any chance that the PG&E program will convert to a point of sale program in the near future?
We're always looking for new opportunities to engage with our customers. So I don't think any of our programs offer that as of right now, but definitely looking towards that in the future. And if we can incorporate it and make sense, we would definitely do it.
Okay, I think we'll ask one more question and then we'll move to the next presentation. Okay, when will PG&E Empower EV support condo complex EV charging needs?
Condo needs. So as of right now, sorry, can you restate the question? I think my audio just cut out.
Yeah, it says, when will PG&E Empower EV support condo complex EV charging needs?
So as of right now, I don't believe that's part of the program outline. So I can take it back to my team and see if we're evaluating that. But as far as I know, we are not.
Okay. Cool. So there's still quite a bit of questions. What we'll do is we'll collect all these other questions and we'll try to get answers for everybody. And then some of these questions we may be able to also answer. So Brandon, if you're able to answer some of these questions directly, feel free to jump in and answer some of the questions. So let's go ahead and move to the next presentation. Thank you, Colin. I'd like to introduce Melanie Biesecker, who's the Customer Program Manager at MCE. Melanie's going to be talking to us about MCE's EV Instant Rebates and then their sync program as well.
Thank you. Yes, I realized that I had a little bit of background noise and wanted to get my headset. Hello, everyone. My name is Melanie Biesecker, and I am a Customer Programs Manager for MCE. I oversee a couple of our transportation electrification programs, including EV Instant Rebates, which we're going to talk about today, and MCE Sync. And go ahead, if we want to move to the next slide, that'd be great. Thank you for clicking slides. So MCE is a public not-for-profit electricity provider with a mission to confront the climate crisis by eliminating fossil fuel greenhouse gases or gas emissions, producing renewable energy, and creating equitable community benefits. Next slide, please. MCE has 37 member communities, which is made up of 4 Bay Area counties, which you can see here. And we're serving over 1.5 million customers. Hopefully we have some of our MCE customers on today. Next slide, please. MCE offers several programs that are supporting transportation electrification in our service area. In addition to the 2 that I'm going to be talking about today, we also offer a workplace and multifamily charging program. My contact information will be at the end of the presentation, so if you have questions about that program, feel free to reach out. But today, I first wanted to start by talking about MCE EV Instant Rebates, if we can move to the next slide. And one more, thank you. All right, so MCE has been offering EV rebates since 2019. However, in May of this year, we launched a new point of sale rebate with a goal to increase equitable adoption of EVs by lowering the cost, simplifying the rebate process, and providing EV education to customers and to dealers. In the first 7 months of the program, we've already issued more than 200 rebates and are already seeing the benefits of addressing these barriers. The program offers $3,500 for the purchase or lease of a new EV or $2,000 for used EVs. And when I say EVs, it's anything that plugs in. So it can be a all electric or a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. We also offer dealer spiffs. And if you're not familiar with that term, it's an incentive for dealers who sell vehicles under this MCE EV Instant Rebates program. The MCE rebate is stackable with other incentives, including Clean Cars for All. Next slide, please. As I mentioned before, the process is simple. We kind of took the experience of our previous version of the program where it required a pre-purchase application and income verification, and we just had some lessons learned. And so this time around, there's no pre-purchase application or approval. The customer visits a participating dealership and selects a new or used EV or PHEV for purchase or for lease. And the dealer verifies the customer's eligibility on the spot and applies the discount off the purchase price at the point of sale. The dealer submits for reimbursement, and 2 weeks later, they should be receiving that. It's actually, we're seeing it faster than 2 weeks. If there's a customer that's interested in a dealership that's not already participating, you can fill out a form on our website, on MCE's website, to let us know. And our EV Instant Rebates team would reach out to the dealer to discuss enrolling them in the program. We currently have more than 40 participating dealerships in the program. Many, if not all of the dealers for Clean Cars for All are also enrolled in our program. Next slide, please. So here is the eligibility. To be eligible, you must be an MCE customer located in our service area, purchase or lease a qualifying new or used EV or PHEV from a participating dealership, keep the EV for at least 24 consecutive months after the purchase or the lease date, and register the new EV with the DMV at the address that's associated with the MCE account. You either need to meet income guidelines, as you see on the right, or be enrolled in one of the qualified programs also on the right. So the table here that shows the combined household income, this is based on 400% federal poverty level. I'll give a second for you to peek at those. before we move on. All right, so next slide. We do have program flyers in English and Spanish if you're an organization or community group, or you want to share this with friends and family. It is available in English and Spanish. There's a QR code there that will take you to our page. And I wanted to give a shout out to Energy Solutions, who is our program implementer. They partner with us to provide customer support and assistance with applying for these rebates. And they also enroll and provide training for dealerships to help lower the price of EVs for eligible customers. Next slide. One more. Thank you. The next program that I was going to talk about is MCE Sync, and I'll try to keep it real brief. But for customers with EVs already, or someone that's purchasing an EV, we do offer a smart charging app, MCE Sync. On average, 80% of EV charging happens at home, with every EV adding around 50% to a resident's overall electricity usage. So as the EV market continues to grow, the importance of smart charging is going to be significant for a resilient grid. It also helps MCE customers save money, reduce grid emissions, and shift load, electrical load out of the peak times, the 4 to 9 times where costs are higher and there are less renewables on the grid. So if you look at this graph, you see on the left somebody without smart charging, and then on the right, you see somebody with smart charging, and the area in red is demonstrating that shift of charging from the 4 to 9 peak times to other times during the day. So with MCE Sync, we strive to simplify at-home charging, allowing customers to get the charge that you need, while also resting assured that it's happening during the least expensive and the cleanest times on the grid. Next slide, please. So this program launched in the fall of 2021. It is a smartphone app that's managed by our partner EV Energy that automates charging, like I said, for the least expensive and cleanest times on the grid. It works with most EV makes and models. There is a $50 sign-up bonus, and customers can earn up to $10 per month in cash back for actively smart charging. This can end up being a savings of $100 or more per year just by charging off-peak. It also works with home solar systems, so without any extra hardware. You don't have to be a solar customer, but solar customers do see benefits. Next slide, please. So eligibility for this program, again, you must be an MCE customer living in an MCE service area, have a compatible EV or charger, and you can see those on our website, and can be enrolled in any residential electricity rate. However, those on an EV rate may see greater bill savings. Next slide, please. And here is our flyer also. If you are interested in sharing, you can find it on our website. There's also, if this presentation gets shared out afterwards, there is a video link there, one of our customers sharing his experience. And I believe that's the end of my presentation. Next slide, please. So my contact information is there. If you have any questions and want to reach out, I'm happy to connect.
Great, thanks, Melanie. Looks like we definitely do have MCE customers here.
Yeah.
I am one of them, and we are getting questions from other MCE customers. So let's jump into some of these questions. So the first one is the MCE program limited to those 4 counties only, or is it for the entire Bay Area?
It is only for MCE service area. And you can check online to see if your community is a member. You can also look at your bill to see if you have if you're an MCE customer.
Okay. And then the next question is, will MCE be expanding to San Francisco?
No, we are specific to those 4 counties at this point.
Great.
There is another agency in San Francisco that you could talk to.
Has the funding exhausted for this current program?
No, there's funding. Both of these programs are currently open.
Okay, and do you have any sense of like when you'll run out of funding or how much funding is available in total?
Not at this time. The current contract, so we just launched the EV Instant Rebates program in May, and that was a 3-year contract. Because it's successful, we may meet our 3-year goal 2 years early, but we are looking at expanding that program. So no concern for running out of funds just yet.
Yeah. The next question is, will there be any assistance towards financing of a new vehicle, like a reduced APR interest rate?
Not through our program. Definitely something to talk to the dealership about. Our program simply offers the rebates, also educational support, and we can help connect you or give you information about other incentives that you might be available for, that might be available to you.
Yeah, and if I can also chime in here, so the financing assistance program that's going to be opening up statewide, they do provide some financing assistance if you participate in their program, and also I think we're going to try to see if we can work together to get lower cost interest rates for the Clean Cars for All customers as well. So stay tuned for some of that stuff coming up. The next question, and I can sympathize with this, but incentives are confusing and changing all the time. Where do we get support for customizing an EV incentive purchase plan?
Can you read that last part again? Where can we get
Support to customize like an EV purchase plan? So like kind of like somewhere to find out about incentives and yeah.
I also sympathize and empathize with this because you're right. There are a lot of programs out there, and it's challenging to navigate when one is opening and closing, and what the different eligibility requirements are and processes. Because ours is a point of purchase rebate, there are times when someone maybe walks into a dealership, but this is really good, that they can walk into a dealership, maybe expecting to buy a gas car and get upsold by a dealer into an EV because of this EV rebate. But then because you're purchasing at point of sale, you might have missed out on maybe the Clean Cars for All program because you didn't apply and turn in a vehicle ahead of time. I think that all of the incentive programs, as far as I'm aware, have some level of education and like customer support. And so I think that you could reach out to any of the programs and, certainly reach out to our team to help you in advance identify what programs you might be eligible for so that you make sure that you can maximize your savings.
Okay, the next question, because low-income households often have no credit or bad credit, is there any assistance to train dealerships to keep the loan interest rates reasonable?
That is a good question. We do in our dealer education, try to talk to dealers about best practices, but we don't have an influence over that at this point.
Yeah, and just for everyone who who might be dealing with this, just in general, the interest rates are pretty high and a little bit overwhelming right now. That's just kind of the state of the market. But before someone goes and shops for a vehicle, we often recommend that you go and try to get pre-approved at either a local bank or a credit union. Just shop your rates before you actually go to the dealership. And if you're still unable to get like an interest rate, keep an eye out for the financing assistance program and also reach out to us. We'll see if we can connect you to any organizations or provide any help. There are also some programs too that help individuals like repair credit and stuff like that. We can kind of provide some of that assistance.
Yeah. And this isn't necessarily credit specific, but also one thing that I'd like people to consider too is the lease option, being able to use these rebates to enter into a lease as an option sometimes is a better scenario for certain folks. So something to consider when you're getting into a new vehicle.
Okay. The next question, what's the other agency in San Francisco that you're referring to?
San Francisco Clean Power?
A Clean Power SF.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Okay, it looks like we have this is a comment, so I'm gonna read the comment. It says, Actera is a local nonprofit that can customize personalized action plans to people. We also hold workshops on EV incentives. The website is www.actera.org. So definitely check that out if you need some help trying to figure out all the incentives. The great folks at Actera can help you. So we'll share some information about Actera when we do the updates on the website as well. So thank you, Erwin, for chiming in there. Okay, I think that's all the questions we actually have for MCE.
Great.
Melanie, if there are more questions, I'll touch base with you and we can get them answered. So
Okay, and I'll put my contact info in the chat as well.
great, thank you so much. Okay, so moving on, this is our last presentation. I think we're doing okay on time, so we're gonna probably have some time at the end to do some more Q&A. So I'd like to introduce Carlos Moreno, who's the programs specialist at Peninsula Clean Energy, and Carlos will be talking to us about about PCE's used EV rebate.
Great. Great. Well, thank you, first of all, everyone here for taking time out of your day to learn about the available resources. I also feel like it can be overwhelming and changes all the time. So that really resonated with me. And just want to thank Backman for giving us time and a platform to talk about the available resources for electric vehicles. So yeah, you can move to the next slide. So like MCE, we're a community choice aggregator. So we provide, we're the generator for San Mateo County and the city of Los Banos. So the program I'm referring to will be pertinent to those service territories. And we launched in 2016 with the goal of reducing greenhouse gases. And yeah, we serve San Mateo County and city of Los Banos. Next slide. Just in short, if you haven't seen this diagram before of what a community choice aggregator is, so we generate the electricity for on behalf of all the customers and businesses in San Mateo County and the city of Los Banos. PG&E, they maintain delivering the electricity and maintaining the wires, as well as sending the bills. And you, on your end, you don't see any changes per se. But basically, before we existed, PG&E did both the generation and the delivery. Now they do the delivery, and CCAs would do the generation. So next slide, please. Okay, so in terms of the program, we're also recently gonna make some changes starting January 1st of 2024, and some of the reasons why. One is the reflecting market of electric vehicles. Second is new rebates and incentives that are available. Like mentioned before, PG&E has a rebate that's open to customers, as well as the federal government will be changing to a point of sale starting in the new year. So we're really hoping that that'll increase participation. So the goals for the changes we wanted to make: one, to help make EVs less expensive than an equivalent gas vehicle. Second, simplifying the rebate process. And third, focus on helping residents with lower incomes. Next slide. So starting 2024, the program will be just for income qualifying residents in San Mateo County or city of Los Banos. And the amount we'll be giving is flat, regardless of a fully electric or a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle of $2,000. The process is going to be the same. So a customer can redeem the rebate in one of two ways. Either they go to one of our participating dealerships and they would get an instant savings, a point of sale rebate, or they can go to any other shop that they would like, any other dealership, a Carvana, CarMax, and they would receive a rebate after the purchase. Yeah, the only thing that to note there is that you wouldn't, private sales don't count. Next slide. Okay, so in terms of process, the big change that happens is before a customer would have to go to our website and apply before they bought the car, and they would need to receive approval from us before making the purchase. Once they received approval, they would have to take that. They would either have to take that email to a participating dealer to get the rebate, or they would have to. Then they would be able to make the purchase. But we got a lot of customers who, made the purchase, hadn't been informed about the program, and we didn't allow for them to apply after making the purchase. So now the program is going to switch so that customers can make the purchase and then apply for a rebate through us. Another change is that we used to have a vehicle restriction, a maximum price of $35,000. We're removing that entirely, so customers can buy a vehicle at any price point. And third, we're expanding the eligibility of income qualifying. So before it would have been something like $58,000 for an individual, and we're now matching that to the federal government, their income qualification. So theirs is $75,000 for an individual, head of household for 115, or joint household for 150,000. So as a dealer, what we're hoping is that whatever car would qualify for the federal government will automatically qualify for our program as well. And in fact, the federal government's program has a maximum of 25,000 price cap, and ours does not. So ours is kind of, you can think of it like the federal government or the IRA plus. So it's giving more options for customers. Next. Yeah, just a rundown of the changes I just mentioned. The process change, the rebate. Before, we also had a rebate for residents, regardless of income, sort of like PG&E, a lower base rebate. So we'll be phasing that out and only focusing on income qualifying customers. Like I mentioned, the low income definition is going to be changing, and the vehicle price requirement. And then just one more thing that's not on here is that before, a customer could only go through a rebate once in a lifetime per household, and that's changing. So now a customer can get a rebate once every 3 years after the date of purchase. Next slide. Okay, so this is just a slide here to show sort of what a person could get. Again, this is just for income qualifying. So they, and the colors are a little bit off because the gray is us here at Peninsula Clean Energy. So if someone who's low income goes for a vehicle purchase price $25,000 or lower, they could get up to $6,000, stacking us, PG&E, and the federal government. And if they decide to go over $25,000, then they would get 6,000. Sorry, so under 25 would be 10, and over 25 would be 6,000. Next slide. And I think we've already touched, PG&E already talked about their program, and then the Inflation Reduction Act, which is already around, but the change happening in 2024 is that'll be a point of sale discount starting in January 1st. Next slide. Okay. And thank you again for your time. Happy to answer any questions.
Cool, thanks, Carlos. And it's actually great that you had those slides that show how you can stack funds. So what wasn't included in there was Clean Cars for All. So if you're getting $10,000 from PG&E, the federal tax credit, and PCE, and you get another $12,000 from us, you can get a $25,000 used car for for $3,000.
Yeah.
So keep those things in mind as you're looking at the programs and thinking about what can work together and what can't. So Okay, let's jump into some questions. I'll start with this. This is not a question, it's just an FYI. Someone noted that some EV-focused dealerships offer incentives and finance support. So each dealership is a little bit different. So work with your dealership to see if they provide any support. The first question is going to be, does Santa Clara County qualify under PCE's territory?
So Santa Clara County, depending on what city, so there is another CCA in Santa Clara County called Silicon Valley Clean Energy, which is similar, basically MCE, us, they have their own set of programs. So they cover Santa Clara County, but they don't cover Santa Clara itself. Santa Clara has its own utility, so you would have to look at whatever that utility offers.
Okay, thank you. The next question, my parents have a second small condo in San Mateo. Can they apply?
Right now, someone would have to provide proof of residency of that address in San Mateo County, and in order to get the base rebate, so regardless of income. If they also want to apply for the higher amount, basically the lower income one starting in the new year, they would have to provide proof of income or be willing to provide proof of income, and that would also have to be tied to the address in San Mateo County. So just noting those two things.
Okay, and I think there's a follow-up question to this, which is like the vehicle that's purchased. Does it have to be registered in San Mateo, or can they register it somewhere else?
Yeah, so my understanding is that it would have to be registered in San Mateo County, but I can double check that and confirm.
Great. When do the new PCE rules go into effect?
Yes, starting in January 1st of 2024.
Okay.
And sorry, just going back, I got a confirmation that yes, it does need to be tied in San Mateo County, the registration of the vehicle.
This might be just a broad question. Does anyone happen to know if the $25,000 used price cap is changing in 2024 or later? I think this is the federal tax credit.
I'm not aware.
I believe it's still 25.
Yeah. Okay, great. Is income eligibility higher or lower than income threshold on your chart?
Eligibility higher or lower. So I will say that the changes that we're hoping to make would include more people under the definition of income qualifying. The caveat there is for larger households. So basically, if you can go back a few slides here to more. One more forward. Sorry, one more forward. Forward. Stop. Back. Back. One more back. There we go. Okay, so so this is going to be the new income, the definition of income qualifying, which is straight up individual 75,000, head of household 115, and joint household 150. This doesn't scale. So it doesn't go, if you have 8 people, it doesn't matter. It's one of the 3. Whereas before we had a scaling 400% of federal poverty level. So it did start off at 58,000 for an individual, but it would go up depending on how many people were in the household. So for larger households, they would probably have counted in the old definition, whereas it would have been, they would not have counted. They would have, these numbers are the same. So that's the only thing to note there. But we're hoping overall more people are going to be included. in the definition of income eligibility.
Great. So next question, do I need to live in an eligible zip code?
Yes. So you can go to our website, peninsulacleanenergy.com, and you can see what the member agencies are.
Carlos, is your program in place of a Clean Cars for All discount, or does it stack with this program and other programs?
Our program is not in place of Clean Cars for All. It's separate, but you can stack it with this program, with Clean Cars for All, and any other program that's available.
Great. Let me see if there are any other Peninsula clean energy questions. It doesn't look like there are any specific questions. So I think we might be done a little bit early. Carlos, maybe if you can just hang around. If there are more questions that come up, feel free to answer them in the chat as well. But it looks like we still have plenty of time left. So what we can do now is I think we can maybe switch back. Deanna, are you still there? Maybe we can go back to see if we can cover some of these other questions for Clean Cars.
I'm still here.
Okay, great.
I've been answering questions in the chat.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, so there's still about 48 questions. Everyone continue to please send us questions. We'll try to get through whatever we can. If we can't, we will follow up with all of you. But before we actually get into some more questions, let me just maybe do another plug. So just for everyone, presentations are available on our website. The recording will be posted later this week. Any future program updates for Clean Cars for All will be sent to our mailing list. So a lot of questions specific about when we're actually going to open the program. Please sign up. We'll try to notify folks as soon as we, as soon as we have a better sense of when things can roll out. And then just for everyone else, there's a reminder at the end of this, you'll get a short survey to fill out. If you don't fill it out and you don't have time, it'll also be emailed to you. So please, if you have some time, please answer those surveys. The surveys kind of help us, are going to help us with some of our outreach. So there's some specific questions for that. And then also, Treta just dropped in the chat. Hopefully y'all can see this. There's a link to the calcca.org website. So that's a link for you to find out if you're, where you live has local community choice aggregator. Not all CCAs have programs, so please take a look, and you can look up each one to see if there's an actual program. So okay, so the first question, I qualify for low income, but I have a newer car, would like to go electric. Is there any options for someone like me?
So Clean Cars for All you would not be eligible for Clean Cars for All, unfortunately, because you do need a 2007 under the new program or older vehicle in order to qualify. However, if you just want to buy another electric vehicle, a used or a new one, there are other programs that you qualify for that were mentioned in this webinar.
Yeah, so yeah, obviously you can decide to keep that car or not, but you can also sell it or trade it in if you want to purchase another program, and you can definitely take advantage of all these other programs that are available. Okay, for EV home charger, will an RV primary residence qualify? The current installed solar system is able to charge an EV during peak sun hours.
Yeah, so with our EV charger rebate, when it comes to the home charger installations, you do qualify in general if you live in an RV. However, we've seen barriers with grantees where they have trouble getting approval. There's usually like the equivalent of a HOA that you might need to double check with if you can install a level 2 charger in your area where your RV is parked. Sometimes there's permitting issues that you might deal with the city or the county. And those are separate things that you have to kind of work out with them and deal with on your own, unfortunately, to see if you can kind of deal with those. So if you can get a permit, if you get approval from the RV HOA or equivalent, you can absolutely go ahead with the installation. And, if you're able to get a EV charger estimate from a qualifying contractor, C10 licensed contractor, then yes, we will allow you to participate in the program. But there's usually some hoops you have to go through to get to that point.
The next question, is this program separate from the Access Clean California program?
So Access Clean California is a statewide online tool that residents can utilize to find out more about other EV programs throughout the state. So for example, you can go to that website and enter your zip code, some basic information, and it's going to let you know what you qualify for and what you can stack, what programs will stack with each other. And then it will lead you to other websites where you can then apply for those programs. So it's more of a resource tool. It's not a program in itself that's going to give you money.
Yeah, and Access, I think, primarily has information about statewide programs, but I think they're trying to work on adding, more regional programs. So definitely check out the website for Access Clean California and take a look at that. Okay, how operational does the retired car need to be? If it can be driven to the place to be evaluated, is that good enough? So this is the vehicle that's being scrapped through Clean Cars for All.
Yeah, so this question is kind of like getting into the details that we really don't want to get into on this webinar. However, if you go to our website, there are multiple pages that you can look at. Like there's an eligibility page that will go over the retired vehicle eligibility. So it's going to go over like you need 2 years of operation in California as like the primary requirement. When you apply for a program, submit an application, and enter the pre-inspection stage, that's when you actually go to a dismantler to see if your vehicle qualifies. On that document, there's an entire list of like what your vehicle needs to do. Needs to drive forward and backwards so many feet, needs to have, things present on the vehicle. So we really can't get into all those details, but we encourage you to reach out to a case manager if you have like very specific questions to see if your vehicle qualifies. But check out our website first to see if you can answer some of those basic questions.
Okay, and we have I think a question probably from one of our dealerships. I'm gonna probably open this up to any other programs. Is there any plan to incorporate ACH or direct deposits for any of your programs?
No, we do not do direct deposit payments. The Air District in general, our finance department only issues checks. A lot of that is just security purposes, so it doesn't accidentally go to the wrong person. But in practice, we only send checks. And that goes for dealerships when we reimburse you on behalf of the Clean Cars for All program for grantee projects. And also when grantees apply for our EV charger rebate, we will also reimburse you through a check that gets mailed to your home.
Right. And Melanie and Carlos, I don't know if your programs
same thing as Deanna mentioned. We would only send out checks from Peninsula Clean Energy for same rationale.
Okay. This is there's a question here. What's the organization name? Community Housing Association. So so the organization name is Community Housing Development Corporation. We will see if we can drop a link for everyone. Treta, can you see if you can find the link for CHDC's program or their email sign up list, and then drop it in the chat for everybody. And then for Melanie, the question before was like whether or not MCE's program would allow ACH transfers. or direct deposits for any of their dealerships? Are you just paying
I'm
them?
not, I'm
or-
actually not sure. I'm not sure and I can check on that.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, this is an Clean Cars for All question. Is Clean Cars for All stackable with the IRS Inflation Reduction Act, which is launching January 1st, 2024?
So I'm assuming this is referring to the federal tax credit that's going to be offered as a point of purchase offering, which it currently is not right now. It's treated as like you get money back when you file your tax return. But they're changing the requirements for 2024, where it's like a on the hood price reduction, very similar to Clean Cars for All. You can stack that with Clean Cars for All, yes. However, just keep in mind that for the federal tax credit, dealerships also need to sign up for that. So we're hoping that all dealerships will sign up for it, but some dealerships may not. So just keep that in mind that it's only participating dealerships for the federal tax credit in the future.
Yeah, and we're going to try to work with all of the Clean Cars for All dealerships just to see if we can get them, encourage them to sign up for it. I talked to a dealership yesterday, and they were in the process of getting registered to start applying that incentive. So yeah, we'll do our best to try to get that, try to coordinate so we can stack all these programs together. If a family meets the income requirements but doesn't live in the qualified zip code but lives in the Bay Area, can they qualify for 2023?
So you need to live in a qualifying Bay Area zip code. So it has to be within our air district jurisdiction, and there's 304 zip codes. So just keep in mind that the air district's jurisdiction, like it only spans parts of certain counties, Sonoma and Solano County. It's only partial. So you might think you live in the Bay Area and you do, but it might not be within our jurisdiction. So there's a map that we provide as a part of the application process on the application itself, where you can check to see if your zip code is within our jurisdiction. You can also give our case managers a call and they can check for you.
Do dependents on federal tax returns qualify if they file their own taxes?
So in those cases, I believe we would ask for, if the dependent is the one applying for the program, we would ask for your tax return that you filed, and then also the tax return that you are being claimed on as a dependent. So we would ask for both of them. And then usually, depending on the situation, but in most cases, we would add those incomes together. And that would be income that would determine your eligibility for the program.
Yeah, so we basically would treat that as a whole household. So the dependents and any parents would be considered a household. Okay, next question. I'm confused. If I'm living in a specifically designated low-income neighborhood and it allows me to apply first when the program is open to all neighborhoods, when does the program open for low-income neighborhoods? So I guess maybe we can talk about the distinction between like what the DACs mean and low-income.
Yeah, so I can provide some more context too. So right now, our program is open to 76 disadvantaged zip codes. So those are neighborhoods that experience higher levels of air pollution. We mentioned we might do a phased relaunch in 2024, where we only open to disadvantaged zip codes first. So you could look at it like we're giving priority to those zip codes. And then once we open to the entire Bay Area, it will be shortly after that, by the end of Q1 2024, it will be all zip codes. So it's going to be concurrently open to low-income neighborhoods and non-low-income neighborhoods, all zip codes at that point. We mentioned that if you specifically live in a disadvantaged zip code community census tract, then you would be eligible for a higher income amount. And if you don't live in a disadvantaged community census tract, then you would only receive the base grant amount. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, thanks, Deanna. We have another question. It looks like the person who asked the question answered the question themselves, but their question is they said, I remember the current rebate amount is based on different income brackets based on the federal poverty level. Is the new program the same way?
Yeah, great question. So with our current program, we do have 3 different brackets where if you make more money, you get a lower grant amount. And if you make less money, you get a higher grant amount. So depending on what your federal poverty level percentage number is, which again is based on your household income and household size, it determines how much you get for your final grant amount. So for example, if you purchased a battery electric vehicle, you could either be eligible for a $5,500 grant, $7,500, or $9,500, depending on where you fall on that federal poverty level percentage spectrum. And we calculate all that for you during the application and let you know what you're eligible for, let you know what your grant amount is. Under the new program, it's simplified. So if you're 300% or less, so basically if you qualify for the program, if you're under those income caps that we showed you, everyone is eligible for that base grant amount. So that's like the first category. And then if you live in a disadvantaged community census tract and you purchase a plug-in electric vehicle or a fuel cell vehicle, then you would be eligible for an additional $2,000. So it's only 2 different tiers for the new program.
Okay, the next question, what year will be used as the base year for calculating income? Is it 2022 or 2023? I know we answered this already, but maybe you can talk about when someone applies and when the tax deadline is and when we start switching over to looking at the newer incomes.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we accept your most recent year that you filed for your tax return. So right now, let's just say if you were applying in January 2024, we would accept 2022 or 2023, depending on if you filed for 2023 at that point. The tax filing deadlines traditionally or historically have been in mid-April of every year, but because of the pandemic, there have been a lot of extensions that have pushed that date a lot further into the year. So sometimes people are not filing as early in the year as they have in the past. But basically, we're gonna accept your most recent year that's been filed.
Yeah, so after the tax deadline though, are we gonna still accept
So yeah, after the tax deadline passes, then we expect that you would have filed at that point, and then we would only accept the most recent year. So let's just say for this upcoming year, and if we're past the tax deadline in April 2024, we would only accept 2023 at that point. If you have not filed and you have received an extension approval from the IRS, then we would request proof of that. That's a special case.
Great. Does the applicant qualify if 1, the vehicle is registered under the applicant as the owner, but for less than 2 years? So the question is, do you need to own the actual vehicle that you're turning in for 2 years? If the vehicle was registered in California under the prior owner, would they still qualify?
Yeah, so we've received a few questions about this. So we only have vehicle operation requirements in California. So we don't have individual ownership requirements. So let's just say you buy the vehicle from a friend or a family member, and they previously drove the vehicle in California for a few years, and then it's recently transferred to you, and you apply for the program a few weeks later, that should be fine. You just want to be wary about those situations. If you weren't the previous owner in those 2 years, those prior 2 years, because you don't know the detail, or you may not know the details about the registration, if there were gaps in the registration, because that could affect your eligibility for the program.
Yeah, and
there's just risk involved in those situations.
yeah, and I'll add to this. You know, we've had a lot of grantees try to participate, and when they actually go and apply the vehicle that they owned, you know, even though they got it from someone they knew, you know, that says the car was registered the last 2 years, it still didn't qualify. So you know, we don't we want people to be very careful about taking ownership of a car and trying to use it to participate in the program, because a lot of times it may not be eligible. All right. The next question, California State has a partial sales and use tax exemption for zero emission vehicles. Question is, does this a standalone project? I guess maybe if you want to just talk more broadly about the partial sales tax exemption.
Yeah, so the partial sales and use tax exemption, that is something that's mandated through the state through legislation. So if you purchase an electric vehicle at a dealership, they're supposed to give you a sales tax exemption.
It specifically applies to Clean Cars for All grantees, though, not just anybody.
Yes, thank you for that clarification. Sorry, it is specifically for Clean Cars for All through legislation. So all of our dealerships are aware of this requirement, and they automatically work with our grantees to fill out a specific form that they sign, that the grantee signs, to get that exemption. And it's handled when you purchase the vehicle, so it's like immediately deducted. So it's not a separate program per se. It's already like incorporated into our existing workflows for
Yeah.
when you purchase the vehicle for our program.
And it's almost 4%. So it's like 3.9 something percent. So basically, if you buy a car through Clean Cars for All, you're gonna get a 4% reduction, almost 4% reduction in your sales tax. So you'll be paying a lower sales tax rate. Okay. Will Clean Cars for All funds be replenished if they're exhausted?
So funding for our program primarily comes from the state level, from the California Air Resources Board. The state receives funding for Clean Cars for All usually on an annual basis through the approved state budget. So we get varying amounts year to year. It's usually always a different amount. It's not always guaranteed. So for this past year, we received $28 million for our program. Next year, it's going to be different. So it's we know we're getting funding next year, but it's not guaranteed that we'll get it after that. So
right. So everyone who is interested should apply, basically. You know, the funding is not guaranteed, as we've seen with the Clean Vehicle Rebate Project. That program is no longer funded, so there's a lot of uncertainty. These programs get annual allocations and they change year to year. Okay. If we have already applied, will we still get updates on our applications?
yes, so we will be providing more specific guidance to applicants who have in-progress applications or who have already been awarded. If you are interested and think you qualify for the new cycle, we'll be providing more details about how to reapply, what that process will look like in the coming months.
Okay. And just for everyone, you know, our wait time right now for Clean Cars for All for the program currently is about 2 weeks. So it takes us about 2 weeks to do an initial review of your application. When the program relaunches, we expect a lot of demand, so that wait time could be extended. So just please be patient with us. If you have an existing application, please reach out to us. We're happy to give you some updates and let you know where you are. And then I think we're just about at time. So if it's okay, I'm gonna go ahead and just wrap us up. I'd like to thank all of our panelists for joining today to talk about the programs, and I wanted to thank everyone else who's participating. I know everyone's busy, so we appreciate you taking time to learn about our program. Again, all the presentations and the recordings will be put on our website, and there will be any future updates for our programs will be also conveyed on our website, and there's a emailing list for you to sign up on our website. And then at the end of this meeting, there's a short survey at the end. So please, if you have time, please complete the short survey. If you're not able to do it now, you'll get an email with the survey. And we'd just like to, thank you to all for participating. And we'll end the webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.